L is regarding another one of the Wethersfield sex corruption scandals. This was recorded, confessed and recorded, tied to Detective Dylan with kids in my area through time. So now they're adults, some of them, but they're still involved with further sex crimes with the schools in Wethersfield. The police hid this from you, Wethersfield. The police hid also Harvard Hospital crimes. And Ian up the street admitted with others that they've been directed to slander me and pretend categorically, near an Ian up the street, there's also on the DMV family. Also, the daughter was her boyfriend. She had boyfriends at the same time. I only saw them in a position one time. I was directed to go there. It was, in other words, so they could pretend they knew me down the road. And they were sharing her at the time, per them. And then one time she tried to entrap me with John Miano made confessions about this too, recorded the rest of the court predators, recorded with the kids and with the sex offenders. So there's a guy with the upskirt natures with the kids, and they're hiding worse with that with the kids because there's a few families with a psychology involved with on-off campus rackets with the schools, with the police forums through time, with database evidence rackets, live progression cover-ups that were affected to them by internation criminal influences, also juxtaposed, recorded with the schools. And now see, they were threatening me not to make any statements. The police are blocking me from making Facebook posts, and they're telling everyone to slander me, and to telling everyone to direct online on Facebook to pretend they have fake conversations with me about CIA, tied to houses, tied to other body dumping confessions and murders, tied to some South Seville's relationships to a couple down the street with a Klotz family, and their confessions related to my 5th grade, 4th grade, and 6th grade classes was involved with database crimes involved with them. They said, and other people said a Gold family that I never had a conversation with. One time I played dreidels with a girl, like when I was young. I don't even know. The only time anyways, the police aren't doing their job because they're hiding inward corruption with them, with other police forms too, and with courts. Because they have court drug cliques with the courts that were growing up in relationship to, they put people in my classrooms that had ties to the drugs and to the evidences crimes and to databases crimes with federal, in the form of federal ones that are verbal, and with databases and with other natures on and off campus. The fact treatment nature trick is a breaching method. I'm not a police former, I'm not a criminal. And they also admitted to having directed the media to tell lies about me that were proven dismissed in court. But they also did that to hide live progressions because they had online rape threats against kids in the school before that. And with the Wethersfield police and with medical families and court families tied to that. There's a Leahy family and a Tardet family also confessed and further recorded involved with bad things with kids through time. Evidences rackets with people's names. As court people, we're going to stop this. There's a confessions tied to it, to a Brian Silver. He non-verbally confirmed roles with that. Crimes with the Leahy family. Also, they attached me to forged names, attached me to fake conversations through time with courts and with this Leahy family, with the Lombardo family, and with other doctors they forged names of. They pretended I had a conversation with me to hide from my police complaint. They used the right to the right to say the truth that I raised my voice to attach me to fake conversations with them, because they knew I caught them with Detective Dylan and with the confessions related to the untimely deaths and with the further child abuse natures with the school. Bob Chase with recorded Middletown tied corruption, confessed to roles with this, with a Christine and with a that was someone else would confess with Christine, had lied to them about me, and or had suggested that he bring up a name to me, because that was already after recorded threats with her in a prior case when they were threatening me and students on and off campus with CCSU not to report crimes connected to court police who had manipulated, exploited girls who were part of like sex circles with interbranch cliques and tied to Lena's Pizza, and they had name sharing tied to evidence rackets where they do the name shift and stuff like that. In other words, they don't let crimes reported, serious ones. For verbal ones are serious. When you don't let when you're slandering someone per group, all group, and they're all relying upon titles and pretending that they know the people just because they walked by them one time, and also with people that never had conversations with me at all, going out of the way, like a Joshua Julian, also recorded with online with before I was arrested, with lies to hide confessions tied to the upskirt natures with the grammar school and to their threats to rape the certain kids in the school. The kids in the school. That Leahy family's bad. They got to tell their kids that, because that's reality. That's reality. I want to know what they told. And I want a response from Hartford Hospital, because they're not going to put them and the Lombardo lady attaching me to fake conversations. And there was also another person in that place tied to John Miano and Detective Dylan, confessions crimes tied to him when I was a kid with the community center in Weathersfield. Also that night tied to confessions related to the body dumping spot in West Hartford, New Britain, right next to Central. That's also been tied. I've been trying to report local confessions related to court police since 2001, since after the and related to campuses, because everyone started making the confessions about the campuses was teaching me about my life, which I was already studying life progression cover-ups and methods to which were like have everyone as Oz. But I understand it now because they took it. In other words, it's all recorded. So what they've been doing is pretending things that were recorded, Weathersfield police, to hide their roles with child abusers further. In other words, Bob Chase said that Phil Cole was also involved with evidences rackets with the medical corruption involved with the child abuse natures. And this is with courts involved with this. Before this too, recorded tied to crimes with a Leahy family and with a local 230. That they said they have drug crimes with, and they said and demonstrated they have drug crimes with through time with kids associated with the family members of unions and of their placements next to the houses of kids like that. Like Eric Jensen is still actively involved now with his confessions related to interbranch corruption when I was a kid, but they wouldn't put anything in writing. I never got to tell on that because Joe DeMoro from the Weathersfield Police Department now, reportedly, I don't know if he used to be a drug dealer. He used to be involved with all kinds of bad things, and with his older brother selling to little kids in middle school and stuff like that. John DeMoro associated with crimes with the police of the businesses with the cameras and stuff like that. Also using those kind of rackets and identities in the background to cover up lie progressions tied to the roles with natures that hurt kids and things like that, to cover lie progression. In other words, we used to have indifference natures as breaching nature roles, tools to lie progressions. Like this Ian up the street. I never had a conversation in my life. One time I walked by him in a bar, confirmed his roles with all these confessions that still they're not letting me make a police report. I tried to make a police report in the context, like a few months after my father's death, and before that. See, but then they're playing this game now because they attached me to the fake conversation. They still with Weathersfield schools, they're hiding from parents how they quoted the name of surveillance equipment, like police equipment. They said the name, and then they put me in a quote to make it look like their sequence shifts were true. Because when you make a sequence shift, you're evidence fabricating. You have to make an illusion. So they keep attaching me to fake words through time. Because I did a report on them. I did a recorded report on their roles with KKK, drug dealing with kids when I was like a sophomore. And when I first met this one of them involved with it. On all sides of the schools. These are private kids on all sides of high school, in the middle school. But that was tied to database rackets with the police force, with Detective Dillon and some other police forms in the area, involved with the evidence rackets, covering it up too. And then they slander me, and they have strangers doing it. So Ian up the street needs to be disciplined. And there's a DMV, a Danielle Perron, that people keep mentioning her name to me, involved with their relationship to database rackets, evidence crimes, with police forms, also with insurance companies, Joe Dennis. And also, he's a neighbor of, what's his name? A former Mayor Gold. They keep telling people to make up stories about me and to say bad things about me. And that because, in other words, what they were raised at. This girl and her father had roles with crimes against with crimes against kids in the same grammar school that the upskirt nature was the principal of, and with worse that they're still hiding, tied to recorded and confessed, tied to a Phil Colo. He also pretended he had conversations with me behind my back through time that never were, and once or twice he tried to record illusion pretending other. And that was after, and confessed tied to his roles, with recorded tied to my project on the roles with KKK and with Latin gangs drug dealing. And Officer Mendez and his brother said that was involved with their roles with the evidence fabrications with the upskirts natures that they're further hiding. They non-verbally implied they wanted me to hide that. And in other words, they also, I don't know them. I just know them. Eric Mendez made confessions about his roles with the group that was selling drugs with the KKK and with the database crimes that wouldn't let me, they would start fights with me in school and then go to have me have a conversation and then send me back to class. I wouldn't get in trouble. But see, what they were doing was stacking database lies. Then when it come, I put my film on them with my informant tied to the drug dealers with the family members of some brothers tied to a probate court judge's family. Sick guys. These are sick people, and that's what we need to put it on paper because they're using means to pretend title as truth, and with lies attached to it, but not for the way they're supposed to be allowed to attach it. They're breaching influence through time. That's why Hartford, Wethersfield. That's why through time we had sick natures were covering up men and women not letting reported child abuses because they're using it to cover their lie progressions. So even if they don't have motivations to hurt girls and people sexually, they're doing whatever. On and off campus too. They're using drugs. That's where the untimely deaths were connected to the same group at Trinity College with the one here, with the confessions tied to the grammar school that brought up the grammar school before I called it. They arrested me with lies after the police had already been with online rape threats related to that with other people too tied to the school. So it was like a Joey Quest, a Scalora family. The Wethersfield police also admitted evidence fabrication slander roles of me. And so Scalora has been pretending to know me, had conversations with me through time. One time I was directed to go to in relationship to my informant, who knew he was my informant, only when I met him up front, Fred Guzet, with the drug dealing with turns out to be the brothers of judges, the extended family of them, whatever. But the point is, we have some Wethersfield predators with Ian up the street, and a DMV family, a Perron family, recorded and confessed involved with the CCSU and with interbranch various natures of court with Connecticut and medical corruption cliques. And then with private police forms, and then with jail forms too, tied to an O'Brien family also up the street, and a Wydell family also recorded and confessed involved with the child abuses and with the evidences rackets with the police associated with the school, using tight policing of the schools to cover live progressions with sick stuff being covering live progressions through all ages of fact treatment nature too long. Employing fact treatment nature, all alternative identities of fact treatment nature's positive relationship to itself, that identity. So we have liars, we have truth not let, CT is cherry tree. This is why George Washington had to counter extort, but still had him and our founders counter extorted in CT right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War in Wethersfield, Hartford, with his Trinity College still. See, we have each ages of college involved with its intercampus, an area maintained as a nature in covering itself up by using what is facilitated for the only means for them to do that, which is a breaching method, which is keeping them fighting to use fact treatment styles. They need to hide lies, delusions, criminal intonation, persuasions, and premises. So we're not even being mandated law because they're not even being allowed to demonstrate their lies and delusions in hiding premises and switching sequences, evidence sequence shifting. We have evidence sequence shifting recorded with courts databases, and with that recorded motivations and then acts, covering that up with areas passions crimes, with online passion crimes, directing them. Also with medical corruption tied to the courts, like with this Leahy Silver clique. That's where the Rick Sanfione and stuff confessed about when they were kids. I only know them from criminality. I never had a conversation with Leahys. They're nuts. Except for this conversation we're having now. They start a conversation now, I'm going to respond now. They wouldn't let me respond before, I'm going to respond now. And they attach me to fake conversations online. In a hospital, they forced me in a hospital with no charges, which is against the law for a reason. They've been telling people I have mental problems. They've been doing this through time to hide how they've been hiding from police reports that say things that they don't like, but for personal reasons, for personal misprising and top-down criminality lies. This is also tied to recorded 9/11 crimes. One can't even report 9/11 crimes and child abuse crimes without having strangers make stuff up and threaten them not to say anything. Play games, pretend to be FBI, like the FBI, like just happened online by Ian up the street, tied to the DMV, tied to the Wydells, who the Colals said were involved with their evidence rackets with police forms in their family and beyond that. Also with the child abuse natures, also with the rackets when they were tied to when I was a kid with this grammar school. They won't let me talk about that by slandering me. That's not fair, and by hurting others, and not letting me report that, and not letting them report that. And how they have women in the area involved too, with fighting each other because we got bad people with the police, the fire, we have the state court judicial building and the prison building involved too, and the house is next to them with the rackets with these people over here. So we're going to put it in the writing. It's going to get worse for you guys, not for me. It's getting worse for me because you guys are wanting to play a terror game. You're going to get it because you guys started it. We're going to see the sequence shifts, the most important thing, because that shows your evidence fabrications. With the Wethersfield police quoting fake, putting quotes to fake sequences, pretending that surveillance equipment did this, also tied to the recorded rolls with evidence rackets, pretending that with mental diagnosis tied to courts. They're using that, like saying people were following them, and then to say that's schizophrenic or whatever like that. These doctors really recorded harassing people, following them around when they're writing, people tied to their drug cliques and online, And then they wrote that without and forging doctors' names, so it's not even debatable because we're not our conversation. So in other words, there's people saving their jobs and using that as a means to keep predatory jobs. There's people tied to the streams of court every day getting abused. Also tied to criminality with the alternatives to court and jail. With the intercommunity service tied to roles with the child abuses, with the campuses too. And with other higher politicians like the governor were caught and involved, covering up worse child abuse and more child abuses with Highcrest School and with the predators in the area. And with the police forms like the O'Brien family tied to Sandy Hook, tied to that area with the police, and with the Wethersfield police chief, his extended family. All these people know a lot of people. So then they make more and more strangers with those people, slandering the innocent people. They're using gangland. Now we need federal stewardship taken. We need federal trusteeship of Wethersfield Police Department, of Wethersfield Judicial Branch, of Wethersfield a state prison thing too. They're sick, and we need federal stewardships of the hospitals. And this is interstate because this is related to what the Institute of Living Hartford Hospital had to do with northern slavery and with roles, with what was internation entrenched here as a breaching organized crime method by fact treatment nature, and before our founders, who were still extorted by this and had to counter extort it in Wethersfield right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. And they were still counter extorted even after the Constitutional Convention, and we're going to explain this organized crime now against fact treatment nature. How they use things like white and black forced with internation police for only realized to these sick internation criminally influenced scientists as agencies predator roles, fake sides. In other words, we're going to have free speech is abridged in our faces, and we're not going to stand it for anymore. We're going to turn everything around. We're going to have federal stewardships of this sick state, and we're going to show how it had no right to have us with a recession, depression, not to own this place by now. We're going to show it's not an accident. We're going to show the criminality around Hartford Hospital and around the Institute of Living tied to the police forms and the judicial corruptions used in that place, using the campuses through time, using the areas, slandering people like me. We're going to figure out what they're doing with Church Street, with all these creeps on Church Street. And the guy from CCSU says they have a Cohen says he's got roles with his lies with police forms from different agencies is involved with this. With Church Street, with Gilmore, he says she has a new name now. He started this conversation. He wouldn't leave me alone, and he lied to. I want to know what these people say. Magnanus also made confessions tied to his daughter working there. He didn't mention her, but it's tied to her working there. He's a bad guy at Magnanus with East Hartford, the police department, associated with Wethersfield Police Department, and associated with their roles with the abuses of kids of all people of all ages of fact treatment nature. They hurt themselves now because they're not going to hurt any more people I know, and they're not going to hurt me anymore.